right, we're going by the numbers, and a pretty interesting story for today. Say goodbye to exemptions for millions of cheap goods when it comes to paying tariffs. It's called anything under 800 bucks, the de minimis exemption. It's over, expired today, so we go by the numbers on it. And up until today, you had anything $800 or less, that was the cap they had for packages coming into the U.S. to avoid a tariff. President Trump said it gave foreign businesses an unfair advantage, though. The companies like Shein, Temu, these companies, like a lot of people like to buy cheap stuff, basically a lot of it from China. It's going to have an effect on that. Prices are likely to go up on things like that. 1.4 billion shipments under this de minimis loophole. That's what came in just last year. I mean, it's a huge percentage of the shipping. 92% of all the cargo arriving in the U.S. comes in under this, right? Under that amount of money. And then 73% of de minimis packages come from China. So yeah, there are other countries, but a lot of it is these Chinese goods from those websites that we mentioned. Now, in addition, 10% is the minimum tariff now for all of these goods. In many cases, it's a lot higher. The only exception is for letters and gifts that are worth $100 or less, but they have to be sent by individuals. But it's going to affect a lot of online shopping. It's just happening today. What else? Well, Americans are paying more for food, okay? And that's where we bring in our chef. Chef Andrew Gruel knows about all of this stuff. Restaurateur, CEO of American Gravy Restaurant Group, joins us now. Welcome. So we talked about that earlier. It's like, and that might affect business in the restaurant business, other small businesses as well, with that exemption going away today. But just in general, food prices have been a big story for a long time. How are things now in your business?
I think that we're all still feeling the food prices from January of 2021 to January of 2025. You know, under the previous administration, food prices were up 19%. They did come down in the final years. We felt that major spike in like 22 or 23, which we were spinning. And that's when I think everyone was panicking and trying to figure out what was going on. A lot of the suppliers actually started to overcharge, but then eat some of the costs on the back end of that, not knowing what the future was going to be like. Now, coming into the Trump administration, we have seen I want to say a 1.7% increase, comparatively. That would probably annualize a little bit under 3%, 2.9%. We have seen the egg prices go up, so that's, of course, trickled down through a lot of the other products that we're using. Now, those egg prices have come down due to some resolution to the avian flu, but that was ultimately what was spiking that. So we're kind of sitting on our hands right now, wondering and waiting, like, are we going to see another massive spike in those double-digit spikes, or are we going to be able to kind of weather this through on a much more regular level, like a 2 to 3% increase? As I mentioned on the supplier side, some of them are eating some of these costs that theoretically might spike the prices right now. So we haven't seen it on a wholesale side the way that we did over the last 3 or 4 years.
Yeah, I'm looking at some numbers here on from July, year-over-year numbers, just overall. Like food at home is 2.2% increase, away from home 3.9%, and then you're talking about some items like meats 5.8, eggs 16.4%. So that's the big spike in eggs. Yeah. Bread and milk 1.3 and 2.6% respectively. Go back to that point on eating the cost, because that's like a broader retail story that we've been looking at in general. Like, you know, with the big Walmarts of the world, Walmart, Target, and all these big companies, and then even in the auto industry like General Motors and the rest, it's like, how long can companies, or how long can restaurants, or how long can suppliers eat costs, and when do consumers have a bigger problem on their hands?
Yeah, and thank you for focusing on that, because it's a question of, is it eating cost or eating profit, right? So when the prices were going up significantly coming out of the pandemic and over the last 3 or 4 years, they were actually increasing their prices significantly, anticipating that perhaps that 19% spike we saw one year might be 19% the next year. Now, it did come down. I think it came down to like 11, and then I think it came down to 4 or 5. If they hold the prices at that 19, well, they've got some really good margin in there, or, kind of cushion. Mm-hmm. And what they'll do is then they'll eat some of those costs because perhaps they overcharged a little bit in anticipation, which is the right business move when you're looking out. So now it's a matter of how many years are they looking out. I've talked to a lot of some suppliers, and they're actually starting to decrease their expectation in terms of how far out they forecast with price increases, which I think is a good thing. Although we do need some consistency here so that we can all start figuring out pricing on a 6 to 12-month basis.
Interesting. Final thing for you. How's traffic in restaurants, generally speaking? I mean, what kind of trends are you seeing, or what stands out, I guess?
I smiled because you said how's traffic. I'm in LA, so I thought we were going to.
No, yeah, we could do a Labor Day story for you. No, traffic, we know in LA is brutal.
Fast casual and fast food dining, quick service has actually gone down from what I've heard. This is anecdotal. What I've seen in casual and full service is it's actually way up over the summertime. I think as we go into the school year and what we're seeing with some of the tariffs, that's what's going to be an interesting index to look at the next 2 to 3 months. But generally speaking, restaurant traffic has been way up.
Interesting. Good time to start a restaurant if someone was thinking about it, or open up a restaurant?
Not a good time because all your capital costs are also way up, you see? So that's an interesting piece of this. You're seeing a lot of people that got PPP money that opened restaurants that then went under over the last year, and now you're getting second generation spaces you can take on to open a restaurant.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.